takes them back. Oh, inside a side crowd and through the night. Run, you can run, but you'll never hide. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming.
Good evening. It's Sunday night. It's On the Ball, the weekly Wolves news chat show where we have different guests on each week to take in the Wolves weekly news. And I do apologise, but in true Floridian spirit, we've had a delay to the start of this evening's proceedings due to inclement weather battering down on the UK. In other words, Josh had a real wobble with his internet. He's had to get the brushes out and sweep the wet weather away, reboot the internet, and here he is. Josh, do you want to talk us through the issues you've had with your technical problem tonight before we get started? Oh. Oh. He was there a second ago. He looks like he's smiling.
Is he gone? Is he back?
No, you're back again. There you go.
I don't know what to trust the eyes. Let's put in the chat. Trust the IT technician to have the problems.
Well, exactly. But you're back again there. So you've rebooted your Wi-Fi, and hopefully you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Touch wood.
Fantastic. Loads of people are saying hi. So first of all, guys, hi to everyone that's watching. We've already got over 100 joining us, which is fantastic. We are live on Always Wolves Fan TV YouTube channel. If you're brand new, hit that subscribe button. Means you can comment in the chat. We're also live on Facebook, and we're also live on Twitter. Otherwise, the artist formerly known as Twitter, i.e. X. So get involved with the chat. Let us know where you're watching, who you're watching with. And where in the, as I say, where in the world. Carl White Ice is asking, are you feeling refreshed after a late night? For those of you that weren't here, and we've had 11,000 views on our watch along from last night, you know, it was delayed until 12:30. So I went live at 12:15, only then for it to be delayed till 2:05. And how I managed to get through an hour and 45 minutes of watching a football match without watching a football match with so many. We ran quizzes, we had a laugh, we had a lot of banter. There was so many that was with us, and then getting through till 4:30 in the morning, it was tough. But you have to say, all them international fans, the Aussies, the Americans, that's what they do all the time, and watch at that sort of time of night. So it gave a little bit of a taste, and it was joyous to see the Americans over there enjoying seeing their idols in person and delivering a 3-1 friendly victory. And we're going to be getting stuck into that. I've got Jack on, so Jack will probably give us a little bit of an update on the recent FA Fans Advisory Board meeting. We're going to be talking about the transfer window so far, getting their thoughts on that. Talking about the performance last night, which was really interesting. And obviously, I'll give you an update on the Content Creators Cup as well, because obviously we just want to keep you updated with what's happening with regards to that too. A little bit of an update on the black away kit, because people have been talking about that, and we're going to have a little chat about Strand Larsen, Pedro Lima, and Rodrigo Gomes, who scored 2 last night as well, and get stuck into it. Before we get started, I do need to say an absolutely big thank you, as always, to our partners here on our weekend Sunday night live show. That is Creation Wolf. They're sponsor the On the Ball. They deliver the industry's latest and most advanced digital solutions. If you've got a company, trust me, they take your brand and online presence, digital capabilities to the next level. SEO, Google, all of that, websites, whatever, they can do it, video. And you can find them on creationwolf.com, and the link is in the description below. And they're such brilliant, brilliant people. Jack, first of all, over to you, mate. You unfortunately, for those that don't know, Jack suffers with Crohn's. which is a bit of a debilitating condition. You'd love to come on last week, but you couldn't because you were really poorly. But you are feeling a little bit better this week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was just saying to both of you just off there. I mean, it's one of them. You try your best to kind of be as normal as you can, but sometimes it's just really difficult, and you have to kind of step away and go, I just need to rest and try and get myself right. So I'm feeling a little bit better today, and like I was saying earlier, positivity is always a choice. So you try and pick the right option and be positive about things. So yeah, things are starting to get a little bit better.
Fantastic. We've got a few comments to get through. Josh, you said you didn't take this long to renew your season ticket.
No.
Yeah. It's a technician just doing Microsoft, because that outage was recently.
Essentially what I've done, just flip the switch off, flick it back on.
I think absolutely. We've got David Boyles. He's listening from Donegal in Ireland. Jack's over in California. Sarah saying did a sterling job. Thanks, Sarah. Scott's from Colchester. We've got Carl's over in Worcestershire. Rebecca's saying I could get used to these 3-1 wins, if only. Really excited about the new season. A few people quite excited. Satvir, I think he's over from Spain, saying good evening to us all. Patrick says, hope you're feeling better, Jack, which is lovely. Sarah is one of our members. If you see the little wolf figure, that means that they're a member, they support the channel. You can get involved on the join button if you want to become a member and get on the Discord group. And Craig's over in sunny Torquay. Fantastic. So, Josh, tell us about what you've been up to over the summer.
So I've been back in the country for, I think, 2 weeks now. Went off to Tenerife 2 weeks ago with my friend and my brother. Stopped off, if anybody knows the area, in Puerto de Santiago, just up towards Los Gigantos. So a bit out the way of Americas and Los Cristianos, but it was still a good time. We were intending to go to Gaffer's Bar. We went to Siam Park. Was going to go to Gaffer's Bar and didn't realise it didn't open till 2. So we just ended up staying around the front and watching the England games back up by the hotel and that in the end. But it was a good week, to be fair, apart from burning out. All three of us burnt out back on the first day, but you live and learn. You live and learn, especially when a local turns around to you and says he wears Factor 15, he's from Gran Canaria, so that says something.
Was that pretty sore?
Yeah, it was. It wasn't pleasant, but I think we managed it quite well, to be fair, in the end. We just needed to
put something
stronger on.
Lots of moisturiser. Absolutely. Right, so we're going to get on to the game and the transfer window in a bit, but we've got Jack on. So we did touch on it last week. Obviously, the season ticket match day prices came out, which I know was discussed at the Fans Advisory Board. Obviously, some people are like, we've been concentrating on, it's £71. But like the fact of the matter is, as I tried to say last week, match day prices in a way we're always going to go up in line with season ticket prices, because season ticket prices you get a discount, and the £71 there's only 76 seats, of which they're only in band A games, aren't they? But what was the discussion like at the Fans Advisory Board at the season tickets, and did Jeff go to that one, or was he? Or is it?
No, he wasn't at the most recent one. No, it was kind of more just around that ticketing. And it was kind of more sort of how it was going to be communicated, because obviously the club were aware that the £71 would be the headline figure, and that was where kind of the flack was going to come from. So it was kind of, how do we, as a club, make sure that people are aware that what you've just mentioned, that the £71 is a very small number of seats in a very small number of games. I think there's 7 Category A games across the season. So it was just about how they get that out there, what the messaging should be. And then also in terms of the fan board, we discussed the bundle offers and kind of how, rather than putting one match at a time on sale, that can put 2 or 3 in a block. And the argument that we said was what that will do is what will allow people to plan, because a lot of the match-to-match tickets will be members, won't they? So they'll need to obviously have travel commitments, etc. So if we can put games on sale earlier, it just gives them that opportunity to get their tickets sorted, and then they can book trains or aeroplanes in some cases and things like that. So we were kind of thinking that's a nice idea. But I think one of the key points that we kind of said was we don't want people to feel they've got to buy every single ticket in one go, because £180 is a lot of money to buy 3 tickets in one go. So I think if you just want to buy one at a time, I think you still can. I think that was kind of how we decided that was going to go across. So it's just a case of those games are on sale a little bit earlier to give people more opportunity to plan if they are wanting to attend that particular game. So that was kind of the main sort of thing we discussed in the fan board, was kind of how the communication would be across for the match day prices. Do they put everything out in one go, which they've done? Obviously, category A, B, C, these are the prices in every single seat, rather than the first time we get a category A game, this is the prices, then we get a category B, these are the prices. So just rather than sort of stinging people at the time, everything's out there in the open now. And people have quite rightly come out with the criticism on the prices. So, but I think at least everyone knows now in advance of obviously games coming up what the prices are going to be. So, I mean, I think that's kind of pretty much what we discussed.
And I take it you had like the head of ticketing and stuff.
Yeah, head of ticketing and sort of head of on call there. But yeah. So again, I think the great thing with the fan board is because we know in advance kind of what we're going to be discussing, we can make sure that the right people are at the meeting. So like you say, for that particular meeting there, we made sure all the people that are involved in ticketing are there. So that's again one of the benefits of the way that it's run.
Absolutely. And as I say, Molyneux is a capacity of 31,500. And as I say, although people were going at about the £71 price point, which is a headline figure out of 31,500 seats or thereabout. It's 76 seats really that it affects only in say 6 or 7 games, and there are bandings, but like obviously that was getting banded about. And do you feel on the ticketing side, because obviously we had the showdown ticketing where the prices were freeze with Jeff were there, the 3.5 hour meeting, and the commitment to roll back the under 14s and the commitment to freezing adult season tickets next year, and obviously prices, I don't know why anyone was surprised about the price structures, because to me it's like it's obvious you're going to have to pay more for a match day ticket if you're not buying in bulk as a season ticket. That's always going to happen. But do you feel that your ideas are being listened to more so now? Do you feel like there's more of an open communication to understand the upset and distress that it causes the general fan base? Because obviously there is this, that Jeff especially, bless him, has made a bit of a rod for his own back with what happened with the season tickets, the column in the Express and Star, all that sort of stuff. And it's going to take a lot of, I was asked a question last week at the fans thing, is he winning back? Yeah, we're spending money in the transfer window and all of this, but the kits come out, that's been reduced. But it's going to take a little bit of a while for that faith to come back. And do you feel like that everything that you're saying and that's been taken on board, and there's more of a listening thing and taking on of ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very much a two-way dialogue. We can kind of go to the club and say, if you're going to announce this is what we think the feedback will be. This is what people have told us in our focus groups and across different things. And so this is how you perhaps need to manage the communications, and this is perhaps what you need to do in anticipation. And equally, the club can now come to us and say, we need to release match day ticket prices. How should we do it? Should we put everything out in one go? Should we put it match by match? Should we announce which teams are in which category so people know in advance? Or so it is a two-way dialogue. And I think in terms of what you were saying earlier, I think the club do understand the fan feeling more or less. I think there's one person at the club that perhaps still doesn't quite understand it, but yeah, I think read between the lines, yeah. But no, and I think that lessons need to be learned on everyone's part, fan board as well, in terms of kind of making sure that we're getting ourselves in those conversations before it's too late and before the club have to come to us and say, help us out. How do we sort this out? So we need to make sure our foot's in the door there early and saying, this is a big thing, ticket pricing for a lot of people. So you need to make sure your communication with the fans is clear from the outset. So I think lessons to be learned. And I think that there's a willingness within the club to do that, definitely. You know, and like I said, you know, before, it's the first year of the fan advisory board. I do think it's gone well. We're pleased with how it's gone. Obviously, there's things we need to improve on, absolutely, but I think that will happen naturally, and I think there will be, you know, improvements in it in terms of that communication and that transparency. So it's kind of a watch this space thing, really. I mean, I think certainly one of our members is kind of our representative on the Premier League board, and he goes to the meetings with all the other representatives, and certainly the Wolves fan advisory board is seen very favourably in terms of compared to other clubs. So, I mean, some clubs, I can't remember the names off the top of my head, haven't even got their set up yet because they can't decide who's going to be on it and who's not going to be on it. And I think one of the other boards, they elected everyone, and then it all got leaked out, and there's something that was confidential that got told to a journalist, and so their fan advisory board had to kind of be ripped up and started again. So I think what we've done is good. Of course, we can be better, and that's obviously what we're going to try and do.
Okay, I'm going to come back a little bit more on the fan advisory board before we move on to the match, but I just want to get your general feeling, Josh, on where Wolves fans are feeling as a club. Obviously, it's been an interesting summer. It's kicked off with the VAR, season tickets, all the palaver about that, the rollback, the kit coming out. Obviously, you know, I don't know what your thoughts are on the kit and the price structure on that. You know, and then obviously the match day prices, and obviously the transfer window. How's your mood changed as a fan, Josh?
I'd say I was pretty much back end of last season in the happy side of it. Obviously, all the news coming out with ticket prices is a massive sucker punch to like people have echoed the last few weeks. The pricing it has gone up. It's going to price people out, which people, like I said, people probably already alluded to on here, so I don't want to wax over it again. But it does put a bit of a dent, I think, in the fan base, where fans are neither. I don't think there's many on the full side of being happy at the moment. I do think, however, the 3 signings we've made so far, I think they've been good additions, even though the 2 are quite young.
And we're going to talk about those in a bit, yeah.
We've gone for the number 9, which we've been wanting. And from what we've seen pre-season so far, his link-up play is looking okay. I know we can't judge it at the moment because it's still early doors in pre-season, but his link-up play looks to have been good. He looks strong. And to me, I think he looks like he could potentially be a fit for the league as well. With the type of play. So transfers for me has put me on a bit more on the happy side at the moment. It's just who goes out, because there's going to be people out going. Pedence looks like he's going to be off. Guedes is the one for me because he seemed, whether it's the case of if he is willing to give it a go again, or if
it's interesting on Guedes.
He knows he's off, and he knows he's off, so he's just putting he's happy because he knows he's already going.
Interesting. So yeah, we're gonna come back and touch on all of that. I think we should touch on Guedes as well. Jack, finally on the fans advisory board, did they talk anything about the ticket master, as you had all the ticketing people there? And was there anything else that was discussed that would be relevant for anyone? Because ticket master has been an issue for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think in terms of the ticket master, I think that's an issue that's currently being sorted within the ticketing focus group, and then I think it's going to come up to the fan board for perhaps first meeting of next season. Kind of what's been decided in that ticketing group in terms of how they're going to sort of approach that, and then we'll be able to discuss it obviously with the right people. So that's probably something that the ticketing focusing group are working on at the minute. Because I know, again, I was doing Arsenal tickets the other day, and the website's still not particularly user friendly, and it's still sort of quite a bit of a labyrinth to kind of get to where you need to get to. So that's obviously something that I think that, again, the club are aware of it. You know, they have a lot of emails from people, and I'm, you know, I've done it myself. I've got in touch and said, this ain't great. So I think that it's something that will be sort of addressed, but I've got nothing to kind of announce or anything on that one.
Absolutely. So, listen, we're gonna switch our attention to last night now. You know, obviously Wolves have played a couple of pre-season friendlies. They had the friendly over in behind closed doors against that team where Pedence the incident with Wang and Pedence got sent off again. Then we played a behind doors closed friendly against Bristol City. I think it was 30-minute halves, 3-0. Fair enough. And then obviously they've then flew out to the US of A. The first trip to America actually for something like 47 years or something. I think it's about that. They're obviously training into Miami's training base. They made a start last night. Then one of the discussions within our Discord group, the members Discord group. So if you become a member of this channel and you do hit that join button, like Josh is, we've got quite a few people that support the channel. You do get exclusive access to our members Discord group, along with special icons and things and your stuff. And it helps supporters buying the software to be able to produce these things as well. But we have this membership, and we talk about everything, don't we, Josh? We talk about the cricket, we talk about music, we talk about football, the Euro, we're everything on air. But like something that came up last night was about, and it's interesting to get yours and Jack's take and everyone else's take in the chat. Obviously, there was a monsoon that delayed the kickoff. Meant I didn't get to bed till 4:30 because of this stuff. And it started 2 hours later, and there's a couple of people that have suggested that Wolves shouldn't be going to America because it puts additional strain on the players, and because they know full well it's a monsoon and it can get disrupted and stuff like that. That I want to just get both of your opinion on, because Wolves have often gone abroad, different places to play games. And obviously, the USA, there's a lot of Premier League teams that are over playing matches in the Premier League because it's the second or third largest audience for Premier League. A lot of expats over there. We're going to start with you first, Josh, before we get actually onto the game itself. Obviously, Kuna went off after 30 minutes with a little bit of a niggle. Hopefully it's a minor, just as a precaution, because not to take any risks. What's your view, Josh, first of all, and then Jack, on Wolves going and training in America and playing 3 high-profile against quality opposition friendlies over in the US of A?
Going to America itself, I don't mind, because you see many teams do it internationally come the European pre-season. My own niggle with this one is that where this tournament has been set up, and you've alluded to it is storm season. And you saw it back 2 months ago during the T20 Cricket World Cup in mainly the Florida area where
remember that.
And that was all in the West Indies and in America. And I know they had a cricket ground set up in Florida as well. And that was rained off, and games were rained off quite a lot because of the weather. If it was another state, say more central or west coast, or even going up towards New York, I think you'd have been all right. But where it is at the moment, it is a questionable decision to have a tournament in the area. I know there's fan bases down there and people are on the chat who want the team to come over. But with the delay, it can affect the players because their mindset's already, they know the process, they wake up at a certain time, they get up, breakfast certain time, coach certain time, and that'll all get delayed. And it starts, you may not see, but physically it can affect players. They've got the routine set in, they know what's coming, and bump, they'll be delayed for another half an hour, 45 minutes. But like I said, in going to America as a whole, don't mind, because we've been to China, Spain, they've even done Ireland. I know it's over the Irish Sea. But it's just where it is. That's where the question marks are for me, especially with the weather mainly.
Jack, your thoughts? Is a club made a howler by going there, or is it just one of them things that you deal with?
I mean, I would argue that it's probably pre-season tours now are as much commercial as they are about football. And when it comes to commercial matters, you go where you're told. So I'm sure Wolves would have loved to have picked a nice sunny, resort somewhere where the weather's great, and which is why they went to Marbella for the first couple of weeks of pre-season. When it comes to America, you go where the games are scheduled, and you go where the organisers tell you to go, basically. And as Josh mentioned with the Cricket World Cup, I think every cricket fan knew that there'd be rain-affected games in that tournament, but because the money had gone there to host it in the Caribbean and the USA, that's where teams went to play. So I think from the club's point of view, like I say, it's a big marketing thing. They've made a huge effort in terms of the worldwide fans to kind of get the supporters clubs in the USA involved. I know a lot of staff have gone out there. I know Bully's gone out there, hasn't he, to meet the supporter group. So they are making a real effort to connect with the US fans over there. And that's massive, because that brings in revenue in terms of shirt sales in America and streaming rights for games and things. So I think in terms of the actual game itself, not ideal to have a massive delay and things like that. But, we've had games in this country delayed, haven't we? I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when we went to Brentford and it got delayed for half an hour because some crap was flying a drone above the stadium or whatever. So in a way, it kind of prepares you. And I think what we were saying just before we came on, playing West Ham, in Jacksonville, is better than playing Walsall and Crewe and Burton Albion, isn't it? Which we used to do in pre-season in terms of a test for your players and getting them up to the speed where you need to get to. So, it wasn't ideal last night. And certainly for yourself, staying up all night is not great, is it? But that's the way it is, unfortunately. Now I think something like 11 of the Premier League teams are in America this pre-season. I'm slightly concerned where that's going in terms of this staging Premier League games in America. That'd be a big no for me, and I do worry whether all these stateside cups and things are a bit of a test in the water to see how much interest there is in Premier League football in America in terms of live games. But I think it's kind of, you go where you're told in terms of the marketing and the staging of the games, and Wolves would be mad to kind of turn their nose up at the kind of marketing opportunities that it gives.
Absolutely. Well, Stephen Gill, who's on X, has just said he's in Florida at the moment, not had much rain for the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, he's over there. I mean, that's the argument. I mean, I think I've been many occasions in this country where games have been delayed because of a sudden downpour and it's been waterlogged, and they've delayed it over here. We've seen it when we've been on pre-season in other places. That I think when we've been over in Spain or whatever, they've had a downpour and it's been delayed. You saw the Olympic opening ceremony. Yeah. I mean, it's France in the middle of July.
The Euros, there were 2 games. One that was postponed for a few minutes during the game, and one that was delayed. Both at Dortmund.
Exactly. So, I just think to myself, it's like, sometimes I just think it's like people just like seem to want to have a pop at the club for everything. It's like, okay, it's a stormy, it's rainy, so they shouldn't be doing that. Look, the fact of the matter is, Wolves aren't getting a massive amount of money for going to the stateside club. They are getting they will get a sum. It's probably about £1 million or something like that. It's not a lot, but then you've got to take into account that they've got to pay for training. They've got to get over there. They've got all of the facilities to things. So it is a commercial thing, but it's not like they're getting like 10, 15 million pounds for going there. Obviously, South Korea was another place that they looked at again. The reason they didn't go to South Korea is because they couldn't dot the I's and thinking they weren't going to get stung again. The Stateside Cup was an offer that was made. You got West Ham and Palace, both Premier League teams that are going over there. You're not going to be playing with the likes of Man City and Man United, so it's like a second or tier tournament, really. And Wolves have been to the States before. They went to the LA Wolves. They've been over to do that. Like, it doesn't matter where you go in the world, you can have rain and waterlogged pitches and freak things like the Brentford thing that delays. And I know the argument is, and there is Gary O'Neill alluded to it, that that they're finely tuned athletes, they prep, and then a delay can actually cause an issue with maybe that they're not being at peak performance and could cause a twinge or something like that, which is the concern about Kuna. But like, he felt he played something with the outside of his foot. He felt something in his knee. He walked off the pitch. Hopefully it's not too serious. but it wasn't like they played on a waterlogged pitch, because like seeing it 2 hours before kickoff, you wouldn't have thought there's no chance that anything's going to get played on that. I watched the whole game last night, along with many of you who stayed up with watching me, and the ball rolled beautifully. Jacksonville, because of where it is a stadium that's designed to cope with those sort of things, the drainage and all that sort of stuff. And the pitch played really, really nice. In fact, the pitch had only been laid about a week before or something, and it played really nice. We've seen England play in Germany on some pitches which were far from ideal at proper football stadiums, and that's the elite football level. So I'd say the pitch was in a better state than some of them. And like you said, Josh, there's some games in the Euros we saw the deluge, and over here we've had something like 4 times the amount of rain that we have normally in July. But that's the way weather's going. So I'm like, get the point that people make, but I'm just like, we can pick on a lot of little things and stuff like that, and like, someone's got injured, or we got injured because we went to America. Well, we played many games last year at Molineux and in training. We had like loads of injuries. You can get, Enzo Gonzalez playing in the Olympics, and that's in France. He's got, now looks like he's got an ACL. It's like we just have this run. So yeah, interesting to see what you think. I want to focus now on the game itself last night. Obviously, some of you would have watched all the match. Some of you would have watched the highlights. I'm going to go to you, Josh. From what you've seen from the highlights, I don't know if you watched how much of the game that you watched. What did you take from last night? Obviously, a 3-1 win against West Ham. Julian Lopetegui's West Ham. Max Kilman's now West Ham. I feel a little bit smug about that. It's a nice win. British pre-season. It's like a practice game, but it was played at quite a feisty tempo throughout the game. What have you made of what you've seen and what you've read?
I say from highlights and the snippets I've seen, and collectively of what you've seen that they've put out on YouTube, I think there's a bit of togetherness coming back with the lads. I think they all believe in what Gary's trying to do, and you hear that as well, and it's echoed in the documentary that they brought out with João Gomes. They all seem to be, even Pedence when he's come back, it's looked as if he's just grinded on, got on with it. There's been no quick entry into the team like there was last year, and within a few days he's been put back in the bomb squad. Guedes looks like he's come into a bit of up and go again, and the way the ball was moved as well on the snippets I saw, it looked quite fluid, especially on the second or the third where it come from Bentley and out the right hand side between.
The third goal was the goal which we played out from the back. Got Pedro Lima and Rodrigo goes, and we've been asked about Rodrigo goes. We're gonna talk about all of these. And the second goal was when Bellegarde drove through, I think, to Guedes. Guedes drove into the box. A last-ditch tackle from the defender, and it fell to Rodrigo Gomes, who just literally leathered it into the top corner. But Guedes was right up there.
Yeah. I say, a couple of people mentioned in the comments, and I don't usually watch players away from Wolves. But Guedes was always one before he come to us. I kept a keen eye on because I've watched him a few times at Valencia and on a few things. And I've always kept an eye on him. And I thought, he'd suit the way we play, even under Bruno Lage. I thought, he could do a job. And then we signed him. And he didn't really look like it turned out he didn't want to come in the first place. It was Mendes moving his clients around again. But I still think he suits the way he plays. From what I've seen of him in the past, I think he suits the system perfectly. And if we can get him going and get him in a mindset where he wants to stay and he wants to push on, whether that be 6 months down the line in January, he's pushed on to get a move away, then fair enough. At least he's done a part and he gives it a go, and gives us something to look at and say, well, he's done something. So he is a good player, but his attitude was poor. But I'm looking forward to see if he gets a chance this season.
Interesting thoughts there. Jack, what's your take on last night? And, Guedes, whilst we're talking about Guedes, and we're going to get on to Pedro Lima, Rodrigo Gomes, Jurgen Larsen, and Chiquino and a few others played last night as well. But, you know, Guedes, the performance and what you've seen last night, what did you make of it?
I mean, I've only seen sort of little clips and like Josh, but I think we were just saying just before we came on, weren't we? It's really interesting that the new players were heavily involved last night in terms of goals and assists, and it's one thing that we've said, you know, year after year as a fan base: get your signings early, get them in at the start of pre-season, so they've got a full run with the manager and the group of players. And I think you're starting to see that that's actually the best strategy, because I think from what I saw, I thought Larsen, Gomes and Lima all look like they've already settled in really, really well. And that can only benefit us. If you think back to last year, we were making signings at the very end of the window. We'd already played 2 or 3 league games, and then obviously Nunes buggered off, and then you're bringing in Doyle as a replacement, and then you get in Santi Bueno on deadline day and Bellegarde with 5 minutes to go. And their sort of settling in period is while you're in the thick of your league games, and it takes them a bit longer to get up to speed because you can't give them an hour here and there in a friendly, because it's league games. So I think it's massively beneficial to get your players in early. I think it means you can be quite selective now going forward. I mean, I think we probably only really need now a centre half, don't we? As an absolute need now. Anyone else would just be kind of just bulking up the squad. So we can be focusing all our efforts on that one player that we need now to kind of complete the picture, rather than trying to find 4 or 5 players in the last week of the window, which ends up with you either overpay for players, or you perhaps don't get the one you wanted because they go elsewhere, and you're suddenly stuck with someone you didn't really want, and then the manager doesn't really play them as much as he should, and it ends up being a waste of money. So I thought it was positive to see those guys getting involved. I think Guedes is an interesting one. I think, you know, we talked all last year about squad depth, didn't we? Squad's not big enough. And then, bang, we had those injuries, and we got knocked out of the FA Cup when we should never have done, and we dropped 3-4 important league points because we had no one up front. If he wants to be here and he's willing to work hard, why would you not want him? Because, as Josh said, he's a good player. The same with Podence. They're good players. And if they want to be here and they're willing to work to the manager, and I think from what I can see, Gary O'Neill's very much a player's man, isn't he? I think players want to play for him, and they want to train with him and help him coach them and have them improve. So absolutely get him involved. And ultimately, I think Josh is bang on. It's in everyone's interest, because if Guedes is still sitting there thinking, well, actually, I'd rather be playing in Spain, stick with Wolves for 6 months, get 5 goals maybe from the bench or whatever, and then in Spain there'll be loads of teams knocking for you in January. It just makes perfect sense for him to knuckle down, even if it's for 6 months, and just say, right, I'm going to play my best. I'm going to, you know, I've got loads of Spanish and Portuguese and Brazilian players here, so I'm not going to be homesick and isolated. I'm going to get my head down. I'm going to play football, and then in January I can have a look at where the land lies. And listen, we know now in football, don't we? If anyone, Saudi Arabia's there as well, isn't it? So if he really, really doesn't want to be in Wolverhampton, he can go and play in wherever, you know. So I think all round it just makes sense to just get these players integrated. And if it's absolutely clear that they're not going to be part of it, shift them on. I think that's what we're going to do with Fabio. But yeah, absolutely, because we moaned all last year about squad depth, and you know, we've got an opportunity now just to add a player here in Guedes that won't cost us anything because he's already our player. So it just makes sense to kind of reintegrate him.
Absolutely, and like we paid a lot of money for Guedes as well. He just on Guedes, he does seem to be a little bit happy around the place. With all the pictures and the stuff. He seems to be more part of it. Gary O'Neill's a different kind of manager as well. He might it's almost like a new setup. It's like a new club. So be interesting to see that. Neil White's asking about Larsen. So I'm going to give you my take, because I watched the whole game. I suffered, 4 hours live stream last night, but I watched the whole game. And what struck me right from the off, and it reminded me a little bit of when we played Leicester in the Championship before pre-season, and I was like, I didn't expect us to look like that. I was like, we looked good. Larsen, he was everywhere. He was making runs, those runs around, trying to get the ball into him. He was chasing things down. He was leading from the line. He looked full of energy. He looks like he got a bit of pace as well. And what I was really, really impressed and shocked was how energized we were and how tenacious we were the way we pressed. We literally pressed as a pack, West Ham, and we were closing them down, and they were going as packs, and we were winning the ball back. We were getting turnovers, and we were making West Ham make mistakes. And I was really, really impressed with that. And when we won the ball back, we were knocking it about with confidence. I mean, he played a back four last night, and Yerson Mosquera looked brilliant at the back. He looked composed. You know, we got caught for the goal, for their goal. We were so in control, and they scored just before half time. Aït-Nouri should have done better than he did for the goal. I think probably Dan Bentley should have done better. But we had 2 or 3 or 4 chances where we were pushing, and the goal, we won the goal from winning the ball back in their final third on the right-hand side. Jürgen Strand-Larsen gets the ball, pulls it back to Kuna, who just finishes it from inside the area. It was so quick, they had no time to react. The second goal, I think we win the ball back again. Bellegarde breaks through the middle. Guedes is running through. We'd made a few changes at that point. Pedro Lima had come on. You know, Rodrigo Gomes had come on. And, you know, again, we even though we made a lot of replacements, and West Ham had done the same at that point, we still looked quite fluid. They all seemed to play in the same way, the same system, knew what they were doing. And it was a great finish from Rodrigo Gomes. And the third goal was an absolute thing of beauty. I've watched the Brazilian commentary on that, which was absolutely fantastic. But again, Bentley's got the ball at the back, who I thought did all right, passing it out. He passed it to the side. They passed it down the line. A couple of 1-2 interchanges. Pedro Lima breaks away, and you got two or three Wolves players running into the box, making the West Ham defence. Kilman's on, by the way, at this point, second half. And his delivery was unbelievable. And Rodrigo Gomes, literally right on his head, bang, goal. And the lad's come on for like 20 minutes. He's been on the pitch 10, 15 minutes. He scored twice. Yeah. And I was really, really impressed. And West Ham didn't really have a lot of answers. And we kept winning the ball. They had a couple of chances. But, like, it's a pre-season game, so you can't get carried away. But Jürgen Strand-Larsen looked good. Pedro Lima looked good. Rodrigo Gomes looked unbelievable. He just knows where the net is, and he was making these runs, and there's the joy on him. Chiquino played in the first half as well, and he did all right as well. And you saw Yerson Mosquera playing at the back, and yeah, there was so much positives. And bear in mind, West Ham would have been missing Bowen and Paqueta. I think you were saying, Jack. We were missing Semedo, Pedro Neto, Jose Sarr, Joe Gomez. All of them weren't even in the side, and you thought we're playing like that. And I'm like, where is this Wolves team last year? So one of the things that like really strikes me is that Gary O'Neill has never had a proper pre-season. No. And if this is what he's trying to create, or what it looked like he's trying to create from seeing last night, and it's one pre-season game against West Ham, 2-3 weeks out from the start of the season, but the signs of how we were playing for me was incredibly positive, because we looked tenacious, we looked hungry, they looked cohesive, they looked confident, they looked like there was patterns of play, they looked like there was an end product. You know, we've got another game against Palace on Wednesday. We've got the game against RB Leipzig. We've got the match before. But, like, if those sort of patterns of play continue, I'll be really, really positive, because we look like a team, and I'm quite excited about it. So, yeah, really, really good. Pedro Lima, Rodrigo Gomes, Josh?
I've only seen snippets. But from what I've seen so far on like the YouTube, I watch the training videos on YouTube when they come on, and they look like they've integrated quite well already. The lads all look involved with them. They all look like they want to be here. And I think the likes of Cunha has just helped a lot with Lima. And I also think that was also echoed in alluded to it earlier, the Gomes documentary, as if Cunha has taken the Brazilian lads under his wing to say, look, get together with everybody, get integrated, and you'll have a good time whilst you're here. So Gomes, from like I said, what I saw briefly, he's looking okay. And like I said, we've still got Neto to come back. It's still up in an iron with what's going to happen to him. But I think depth-wise, if he does go, I think we could be all right with what the options we've got, especially with the likes of Gomes.
Yeah,
I know they're young, but we've got to just give them their time, stick with them, and just when they get their chance, just get behind them and let them do what they've got to do.
Absolutely. And guys, we've got like over 400 watching, so please hit that like. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever, give it a smash a like. And we're literally currently on subscriber-wise on YouTube, 33,595. So we're only 5 short of 33,600. So hit that subscribe button and get us across that mark if you're new and you're enjoying this, and you can get involved in the club. Mark Woods on Facebook has just said, pressing was strong all game, passing out was strong, very positive with the team. The new lads added big time. Monday here in New Zealand, off to working them out, loving the show, fantastic. We've got 58 likes, let's get that to 100. Ashley says, the new lads Gomes, I've never seen a player look so happy playing football. We seem to have the right characters in the club. Very positive sign. Azo Football just said, I think Kuna's benefited with the player in front of him. He has an extra passing options. Very, very good point. On that, you probably want to see, but Kuna was fantastic in the first half hour till he went off. He was playing like with such a freedom. He's causing all sorts of problems. He was linking up so well. There was such a fluid movement about the place. Obviously, he had to go off at 30 minutes. I know Gary was hoping to give him 60 because I think Wang had to go home for a personal issue and came back, and he played longer than he did, but did really well. But Kuna in the system that we were playing looked really, really, really good. And obviously, we were playing that back four. Hopefully, we'll have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C as well. Pedro Lima and Rodrigo Gomes, Jack, you from obviously it's early days, but what are you seeing? What are the signs you're seeing from them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I just come back on Larsen just for a second.
Yeah.
Now, I think one of the key points of pre-season is you address your weaknesses from the year before. Now, last year, we conceded the most goals in the league from giving the ball away in our own third, defensive third. And the reason we did that was because we had no out ball. The defenders didn't have anyone to get the ball up to relieve the pressure. So we were holding on to it for too long. We were getting pressed. We were giving the ball away and we were conceding goals. Now you've got someone up there. Okay, everyone wants to play out from the back now, but sometimes you have got to go long and you've just got to go right over the top, take out 7 of their players in one go. And now you've got Larsen there. You can do that. And I think that's going to be absolutely massive for us this year. I think it's going to cut out a lot of those errors that we made last year. I think in terms of Rodrigo Gomes, again, it's only clips on YouTube and pre-season friendly, so let's not go massively overboard. But excuse me, the player he reminds me a lot of is Jota, in the fact that he's always involved and he wants to be involved. You look at the goal he scored yesterday. He just makes the run. He's not guaranteed to get a ball, is he? But he goes, you know what? He might just pick me out here, so I'm going to make my run. And if it gets to me, I'm there to score. And I think that's exactly what Jota used to do for us all the time, wasn't it? You had players that were kind of drifting in and out of the game. He was constantly wanting to be involved in that game, and I think he reminds me a little bit of that. I know the comparison with Neto is easy to make because they both come from Braga, etc. But I think Jota's kind of the one that Rodrigo Gomes reminds me a little bit of in terms of that, just wanting to be involved in the game all the time. I mean, sometimes when we had Jota, if he hadn't had to touch the ball for 5 minutes, he'd go and foul someone just so that everyone reminded that he was still in the game. And I think Rodrigo Gomes is probably quite similar. He just wants to be involved in the game all the time. And Pedro Lima, from what I'm hearing, I think he's been a revelation in training. I don't think anyone expected him to be quite as good as he's shown in training. So, I mean, that's a huge positive. We're kind of quite well stocked.
The ball that he delivered for that goal as well.
Yeah.
It was bang on, almost. If you make the run like what you've got, someone that can make the runs. You put a delivery in there. It's hard for the keeper to come. It's hard for the defenders to deal with. And literally, all Rodrigo Gomes had to do was be there, arrive, and he buried it. But like he buried the other chance. He didn't think. He just He just finished it. Kuna, the first goal, he just finished it. Like, how many times have we seen Wolves missing chances, good opportunities? They didn't think. They just finished the move off, and it was like we could have had more as well. Yeah, someone's mentioned about the West Ham goal was poor. I do agree. It was a poor defensively. Nori actually should have done better. We've sort of drafted that. But Jack, you make really, really good points. And I don't want to get too carried away because it's like a pre-season game. And it's like, had we have lost that game last night, we'll be saying, well, it's a pre-season game.
Pre-season,
it's a learning curve. But it is great to see. It was exciting to watch, especially after watching England in the bloody World Cup and like all that sitting back, how we were pressing forward and how we were moving the ball and how we looked. They all looked to be confident and positive, and even the players that came on off the bench. And like I say, we had 4 big players missing as well, and probably more because Boubacar's obviously, away, who's obviously been in the match day squad. Sort of a couple of young lads that came on. Was it Chirou? He had a shot as well that was tipped round the post. It was a good effort. I think he'll be a good acquisition. So it's positive. It's looking really good. I think it's what Jack and Josh have said, getting these players in early. And don't forget as well, the fourth side in is also, what's his name? God, he's gone out of my head now.
Tommy Doyle.
Tommy Doyle as well. Yeah. But can't get too carried away about the transfer window, although it's done early because there's still a long way to go. There's players that might leave. I'm sure there's other business. I think we need another centre-back. I thought Yerson Mosquera was good. I thought Totti looks great. Dawson did a job when he come on. Santiago Bueno. But I do think we still need another centre-back. I think possibly we need another forward as well, potentially another wide forward or another striker. Because if Strand Larsen gets injured, he picked up an injury, we potentially another forward as well. I mean, Josh, the squad as it is, what you're seeing, where do you think we still need to bring players in to just give us that little bit more security?
I do think there's an imbalance. People keep alluding to back four.
I'm gonna put the lights on.
People keep alluding to a back four. Do we know those two are going to be? I haven't got a clue. Mosquera could be the one with Dawson. You've got 4 centre backs. Is it 4 centre backs we've got now? Bueno, Totti, Dawson, Mosquera.
Yeah.
If it does work as a back four with those 4, you've got a head conundrum because who are you going to play if it works? And they're going to be knocking on the door every week saying they want to start. We've got I think they're all under the age of 25, aren't they? Apart from Dawson.
Yeah.
So they're young-headed, so you need a player like Dawson in there, but you could do with someone in that range between Dawson and the 3 other lads that's got 200 appearances in the Premier League, played centre-half before, has got experience in that position. So I think centre-half could be one more position. I also possibly think a left-back.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's a left-back, wing-back, another one.
Yeah, it's one of them where I personally don't think we need one, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did. So I still think Nuri could possibly be gone. But then I don't think Gary's really favoured Hugo that much the last 6 months. But we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens.
Although he did well when he came on last night, Hugo Bueno. So, Jack, you said a central defender. Anything else?
I think the way I'd look at it, I think we should be actively trying to recruit a centre half at the minute. That's where we look a little bit like we need a starter. I think everything else, as Josh kind of said there, depends on who goes. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Bentley going to Arsenal. So if he goes, you suddenly need a backup goalkeeper, don't you? Because I don't think King is a second choice by any stretch of the imagination, is he? If Neto goes, you might need to go and bring another wide forward in. If Nuri goes, you definitely need another left fullback then or left wing back. If Silva will go, Pedence and Guedes go, then obviously you might need another forward option there just to cover injuries and internationals. If Wang has to go with Korea again, and the African nation things are coming up at different points, aren't they? So I think, again, going back to what we said earlier about getting your business done early, it means that you can sort of be a little bit reactive for the rest of the window. And if you do lose a player, you can then go, right, well, this is our budget and this is the players we've identified in the past. Let's go and get target A or target B, rather than kind of having to panic and just sticking a dartboard and picking a player at random and going. So I'll be actively looking for a centre half, because I think there's a lot of unknown quantities there. I think Mosquera is a bit of an unknown quantity at Premier League level. I think Dawson's just had surgery, and at 33, with a player having surgery, you're not quite sure what level they're going to be when they come back. You might be absolutely fine and be the Dawson of old, but there's always that question mark, isn't there? And then I think Santi Bueno and Totti are good squad options, but if you were to go through a Premier League season with those two first choice week in, week out, you wouldn't finish very high up the table, I don't think. So I do think we need a proper centre half. That's offensive to those four. A first choice centre half to kind of lead that back four. I think if you look at the best teams in the league, you go right down the middle of that team and you know exactly who their first choice goalkeeper is, a first choice centre half, a first choice centre mid, and a first choice forward. I think we're just missing that centre half now.
Okay. Anything else at all? Just
again, I think it just depends on outgoings really, and just whether O'Neill thinks he's got the balance of the squad. I think Hugo Bueno could go out on loan. I think there's interest from Celtic, isn't there? So again, if that happens, then you need to react and go and get a left back, left wing back, left full back, whatever, to kind of cover that position. But it is literally get your centre half, and then I think we're good to go unless people go, and then you need to kind of replace them like for like if you can within that squad. Fantastic.
I just want to answer this, Neil Lewis, because I'm chuckling at this. David, sound like made 3 million. Negativity sells more than positive. You're surely better than that, David. Well, I'm not being funny, Neil, but like we've got to cover all the debate things and all the discussion things. I am a bit of a happy clapper. I will self-confess, but I've just spent about 10 minutes just before this raving about how good we were. The thing, I mean, how much more positive do you want me to be than that? I've just been really, really positive about how we played last night. So I'm not really sure of your point. If you think I'm negative doing that, in the words of Jeff Shear, then this might not be the channel for you, because I've just been really, really positive. That's just made me laugh. But mate, we've got to cover everything, negative and positive. People are entitled to the views. You've got to have the balance one way and the other. There's going to be times when we're going to be really positive. There's going to be times when we're angry. We've seen that over many weeks. But I'm really, really positive about last night. So I think the points that you've made are there. I think we've got to not get carried away with the performance last night, as good as it was. Let's monitor and see what happens on Wednesday. It'll be another late night possibly for me, and then Sunday. I'm really looking forward to the game against RB Leipzig. Actually, that's going to be a really good game. And then, of course, the following week after that, we've got the home friendly. We get to see them get back to Molineux, and then we're at Arsenal away, and it's the countdown is on. But equally, we can't get too carried away with the transfer window, because we don't know how it's going to end. Just as I said last year when not much was happening, let's see, are we stronger at the end of the window than when we went in? But I do think it's massively positive that we've got 3 key players, the number 9, Rodrigo Gomes, Jürgen Larsen, obviously, and Pedro Lima through the door early. And you can see, like what Jack and Josh have said, that having them in early means that Gary O'Neill has got time to really assess and get them into how they're thinking, rather than the likes of Bellegarde and Santiago Bueno, who came in really late last year and struggled to find their way. But this summer, with the training they're doing, it seems positive. So, I'm really, really positive about that. Let's just touch on, I just want to touch on the Content Creators Cup if I can for a minute, guys. This is a fundraiser that we're doing for the Content Creators Cup. We're up to, I don't know if you can see that, we're up to, would you believe, £830 now, which is great. So there's some people who can't come who've made a donation. This is all going towards the Wolves Foundation, which is helping them, be able to provide services for young people, for, dementia, for mental health, for disability. But there are people that want to come and watch. So, for example, Rebecca Harper here, she's bought a ticket. It's not £15 a ticket. She's put an extra donation, which is lovely. There's a few players that have registered there. Boston Brian, he's done a £50 donation because he's away, which is lovely. The old Gold Pack have paid their entry there. Carl Whitehouse here, you can see he's bought 2 tickets, so it's £10, £5 tickets. So if you do want a ticket, and there's going to be only restricted to about 100, 150 spectator tickets at Compton, it is £5 a ticket. You buy your tickets on here, and then it will be on a list on security on Compton, so you can get in. So you will be put on a list, and then we'll be given a ticket on arrival and a pass to go in. Chris Humphries here again, the same. Craig Carter here, 3 tickets. So that's how you buy your tickets. And I say there's only a limit of around about 100 to 150 tickets to be able to go and watch. It's at the Dome indoor at Compton. There's a beautiful viewing area. There's going to be refreshments on. It's going to be a great day, and hopefully we're going to see all your favourite content creators play in the right spirit and raise a lot of money for the Wolves Foundation. So yeah, hopefully you can get involved. There's a link in the description below. Finally, we're going to take your questions for Josh and Jack. If you've got any questions that you want to just shoot at us, now's the time to do that.
I'll throw a question in, David, or a discussion point, if you like.
Yeah.
About Lamina as new captain. What we're thinking about that, because that was announced this week, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, that's absolutely right. Lamina as captain. And Josh, your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good decision. He played majority of the 90-minute games he started last season. He does seem to lead on the pitch. You saw him talking to everybody, always as well when they did the huddle, pre-match huddle. Although Max would be giving his spiel as they walked away, you'd always see Lamina geeing everybody up. So I think it's a good choice. And I think we had a good few options, to be fair, to follow up from. So I think it is a good move, and I think the players all accept it gladly as captain. So I think it's a good move. Yeah,
absolutely. Jack?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was kind of thinking I'd have Lamina or Cunha as my choices, but I'm happy with either. So, and I think Lamina's a great choice. I think he's a leader anyway, so stepping up to captain should kind of be the natural progression. He's obviously very popular within the group as well. So yeah, absolutely. And I think, we talked a lot last year about whether Kilman was suitable as captain, and that became a bit of an albatross around his neck, didn't it? I think when people were criticising him, it was like, because he's a captain, he did a. Whereas I think with Lamina, I think he'll wear it well, and I think it won't be as big a talking point as it was last year. So again, that's another issue from last year that we've kind of sorted out, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The 3 main contenders were obviously Dawson, Matheus Cunha, or Mario Lamina. Mario Lamina was always my first choice. I think Cuna's great, but he plays on the edge a bit, Cunha, and he's very emotional. I know Lamina can be emotional, but Lamina looks like a captain. He talks like a captain. He acts like a captain. He's vocal. You can see how he is with the players. You can see how he is off the pitch with the fans. And I don't want to do any disrespect to Max Kilman, because Max Kilman was a lovely lad. Yeah. He did his best. I spoke to his mom. I think it was Chelsea away, and she was saying how proud he is to be captain, but he knows he's got a lot to learn in doing that.
He gave everything for us, really, didn't he? He never had a strop. He just played his game and just got on with it and did what he needed to do for us.
Absolutely, and he did a really, really good. He did a really good, the best he can, but he was quite quiet when we've been used to Cody and stuff like that. Lamina, he just looks like a captain on and off the pitch. He's just got that. The fans love him. The rest of you saw the love for him when obviously his father died, that the squad did for him. he seems to have connected. He seems happy here, and I just feel like he was the natural choice, and I'm really, really pleased that he's got the captaincy. And the sale of Max Kilman, I mean, it's a win-win-win for me. I mean, it's like 40,000 to 40 million. You know, that taking a captaincy off someone is always a difficult thing to do. If the manager takes a player that's still there and they take the captaincy off them whilst they're there. We've seen that happen in the past when Roger Johnson came in, and remember he was given the captaincy and it unsettled. So the fact that he's been sold out, Max has gone to be nearer his family in London. He's playing for West Ham. You know, you wish him well, but I do worry about him in a back four. I think, you know, we exposed him again last night in the second half. And it's helped with the financial fair play and PSR, and it's opened the door, like you say, to be able to bring in that natural captain that Gary wants. So I'm really positive about Lamina. Someone's asked and has been asking, this Scott, he's asked about 10 times. So we'll think, do you think Lamina should have been captain over Kilman last season, Josh and Jack?
It was one of them because Lamina was 6 months at the club. Was it 6 months that he signed in January? He did, didn't he? I think 6 months at the club. It was one of those for me last season when that was announced with Max, it was also around the same time we had his contract renewal. And people can shoot me down on this one, but I would not be surprised one bit with the way football is these days and contracts if it was in his contract that he was made captain. Personally, but I was at a point last year where Dawson had been with us. Was he 6 months as well? Lamina was 6 months.
Yeah.
So it was a question one. I think 6 months for someone to then be captain is still a bit too soon. Whereas he's had a full season and a half now. He's integrated. He knows the players. They all get on. So ideally, in hindsight, I'd have probably said yes. But with 6 months into his tenure with us, I'd have probably said no.
Rebecca makes a really good point, actually. One of our members here, she says, no, with what Mario had going on in his personal life, it was better for him to wait. I think that's an extremely good point as well, because obviously he was dealing with a lot personally. So the captaincy would have been a heavy weight on him. So I think that's also a good point. Ellie, Jack, who do you think will be vice captain?
I mean, again, I would go Cunha, because I think you see on all the video clips, he's the heartbeat of that dressing room, isn't he? And I think he kind of epitomises what O'Neill wants, is that all action, his positivity, isn't he? I think, again, it's great to have candidates, though, isn't it? I think Dawson would be a smart choice, wouldn't he? I think Semedo, given how consistent he was last year, I think he's earning the right to be in that conversation. I mean, you could argue for Jose Sarr as well, because he's going to play every game, isn't he? And he's obviously a big, big personality as well. So if it was me, if I was in charge, I'd have Cunha as vice captain. But I think it's great to have 2 or 3 different options.
Steve Bromley, a question directly for Jack. Do you think we need another striker to cover any injuries?
Again, I think it depends on kind of outgoings. If you look at the minute, we've got Larsen, who's our out-and-out number 9. You've got Cunha, who can play there. Wang can play there. And then you've got the likes of Bellegarde, Neto, Rodrigo, Gomes, who can sort of play in a different kind of the fluid front three, if you like. So I think if as it stands, if we went into the season with what we've got, I'm not unhappy. But if we could get another option, like a homegrown, cheap option who's happy to kind of be in around the squad, you know, I mean, we talked about Che Adams, didn't we? Know he's gone elsewhere now, hasn't he? But if we got that kind of player available, just to kind of cover, like Steve says, injuries, then great. But as it stands, if we go into the season with what we got, I'm not unhappy.
Fantastic. Carl, a question for you to answer first, Josh. Did the formation we played against West Ham friendly suit for the coming season? I think we played a 4-4-1-1. It looked like when it was listed on some of the football apps, it looked like a 4-4-1-1 type of formation. Probably a bit more fluid than that, but you know, what are your thoughts?
I think going off from what I've seen, like Jack said, I've only didn't watch the full game. I've only seen snippets and the video off YouTube. I was on about it to my brother. It seemed like I didn't really know the formation. I didn't really pay that much attention to it when I watched the highlights. But I said to my brother, it seemed we were like 4-4-1-1 or 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 where you had that midfield two pairing, two wingers, Cunha free rolling behind Larsen, so he was able to move. Will it suit us?
Yeah.
Will it suit us? It's the big question mark of the back four still, isn't it? We haven't really seen us play well as a back four. Time will tell. But from what I saw last night, it seemed it worked all right. But the back four have just got to be that in tune and talk. I can't remember who it was now. I was watching a video a few months back where literally, say, if you had one vocal person in the back four, all four have got to be talking because, like we saw, Out Mooney was out of position. That back four, if we are going to back four, it can't just be one person directing the other three. All four have got to be talking. Man on your shoulder, man come in, step back, step forward. They've all got to be that in tune, and we've got to get it to work if we're going to do it.
Absolutely. Jack, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of watch a lot of football now, and I think formations are kind of not as important as they used to be. It's more about your movement, and it's more about kind of your shape in and out of possession. So if you're playing a back four, at times it will drop into a three naturally anyway, because someone will drop deep to track a runner or tuck in to kind of cover. And then sometimes it will go into a bit of a two because both your players are bombing on in the counter and things. So I think, the way that Guardiola plays his football has kind of been a big influence, hasn't it? Where you've got your defenders running into midfield and defenders dropping. So, but equally, I think, you saw it a little bit with England in the Euros, didn't you? Do you play to your strengths or do you cover your weaknesses? Now, when England went into that Euros, all the concerns were about the defence. So I think Southgate naturally played quite defensive to try and give them as much protection, but it meant that he wasted so much attacking talent. So if I'm Gary O'Neill now, I'm saying, right, I'm a bit worried about this defence in the back four, but we've got so much talent going forward. If we have to play a back four to get the best out of Cunha and Larsen and Neto and Gomes, I'm going to do it because we might win games 4-3 and 5-4 and things like that. But if he gets us points, then I'm going to have to do it. And I think you don't want to get into the trap that Southgate did with England and going, well, the defence isn't great, so we're going to be defensive and give them loads of protection, and we're going to isolate our attacking players on their own, and not going to be any influence in the game. So I think the back four probably gets the best out of our attacking players, and in which case, that's probably what we're going to have to do and be open and perhaps have games where we can see goals, but equally give ourselves the best chance of scoring goals as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably the way thing. We saw Gary tried to start a back four last year, but he didn't have a lot of time to work. I did think Yerson Mosquera had a really, really good game last night. He looked good. I thought the back four dealt with West Ham quite well last night. I thought the way they played the ball out, they looked very. Even Bentley did quite a good job of passing the ball out. He knew when to go long, and they were very clever and slick with how they passed it around West Ham, and they looked really, really comfortable. And when they made the changes and they changed the back four in the second half, again it looked good. And they had the likes of Antonio was on there, and for the second half, that's what West Ham were bringing on. We've seen how Antonio has bullied our defence so many times. And yeah, but again, it's just one game. But they conceded that one goal, which Ait-Nouri should have done better with. Really, you let the kudos or whatever it was go past him. Bentley was beat at the near post, but we should have dealt with that better. But the crosses we dealt with quite well. Also, the set pieces. The other thing is defending set pieces, because we've got Jurgen Strand Larsen, who's 6'4". He's a great player to have when we're defending set pieces as well, because he can literally, and he's got pace about him as well. He really looked good, Strand Larsen, last night. And also set pieces in the other. We've obviously got the new set piece coach as well, so it'd be interesting to see not just how we do set pieces from an attacking point, how we defend them. So I'm positive about it. I'd rather see us be more adventurous, and maybe we'll get caught a few times and stuff like that. But once they get used to playing together, they'll get more confident. I saw Lamina that dropped back when he needed to give that extra cover. Very, very fluid, picking the ball up deep, and they were playing through West Ham. It's the best football I've seen us play for a long time. Last night, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, not just the way we were playing it, but the way we pressed. It was it was like, where did this come from? And so this pre-season is getting that sort of patterns. I'm really, really positive. Someone, John Harrison, this one we'll give to Josh and then to Jack. Semedo is a big question. What we're going to do with him? Contract ended.
I'd like us to renew, but with the season he's give us, I know people will probably moan about me saying this, but I think the ball is in his court rather than ours personally. He's 29, 30 now. First season, it wasn't that impressive. Second season, he knuckled down and got on with it. And last season, he went up another level again. He was my player of the season last season. We've already took that 1 year extension, which we're going into now. I personally would like to keep him because I've really enjoyed watching him the last year and a half. I think he's been a stalwart of the team. He's done his job well. Yeah, there's been snippets where he's made a mistake, but everyone does that. Everyone makes a mistake, but they're a lot less common than what he did in the first season we had him. I think he played well, and I've also thought he played well in his cameos in the Euros as well. He looked all right, and that was a back four. So I don't think he really got a run around on him during the Euros from the 20, 25, 30-minute spells he played when he came on. And he looked okay in that system to the right-hand side of Diaz. So I'd like us to extend, but with his age now, and if a Saudi club come knocking on the door, I wouldn't be surprised if he bit the bullet and did go, unfortunately. But it's one of them. I'd like him to stay, but I think the ball's in his court rather than ours.
My understanding is he has been offered a new contract, but obviously he's not going to be on the same money that he's on because of his age. And I don't think, and he's not signing the contract, a bit like Adama Traore.
Yeah.
He's got a year left. He doesn't have to sign it. Maybe he'll think he'll get a payday in Saudi and they'll pay him a packet or something like that. I don't know. What's your thoughts on Nelson Semedo? And Paul Everett makes a really good point. We haven't mentioned Luke Cundle. He started for Wolves last night. He linked really well. He did really well, Luke Cundle. But Semedo, Jack?
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I think ideal world, I think Semedo stays another year and a half, maybe, while Lima acclimatizes and grows, and then you got a natural succession there almost, haven't you? A bit like when we bought João Gomes in to replace Ruben Neves, and they had 6 months together, and then Ruben went off and João stepped into the boots. And I think you could have a similar situation with Semedo and Lima, where Semedo goes and Lima's kind of ready to step up. But like you say, I think players, and particularly like, agents and things now, have a big influence. And if an agent and a particular club are pushing to sign a player, then there's not a lot we can do, really, particularly once they get into that last year of that deal. So it's kind of a case of, do we offer him a deal just to cover ourselves, so that if he does decide to go, we get some money back? That would probably be the sensible thing to do. Just going on to Luke Cundle, I quite like Luke Cundle. Watching him in the 21s for a couple of years, and then he's obviously gone out on loan and done reasonably well at Plymouth, and had a sticky start at Stoke, but kind of grew into that loan spell as well. I think he's quite different to a lot of our other centre midfielders. He plays a lot in the pockets. He doesn't kind of, he's not sort of a destroyer like a Lamina or Gomes. He doesn't make a huge amount of tackles. He sort of likes to get on the ball and turn and play the sort of passes across and through the lines. So I think there's a space for him in the squad, particularly with him being obviously homegrown. But it's kind of one of those where you have to be quite player-centric and go, well, actually, if we keep him, he's going to maybe play 4 or 5 games for us this year. If we loan him out to a championship club, he's going to play 40. What's better for him at this point? So it's one of those where I think we just have to kind of see what the club decide to do with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, we're literally 3 short of on YouTube, 33,597. So just 3 of you hit that subscribe button. You'll get us over that marker. And I hope you've been really enjoying this tonight. Hit that like button, whatever you're watching on, because it'll let the algorithm know that you're enjoying it. One little final thing before we finish for tonight, boys. We're on 77 lives. Come on. We've got over 400 watching, nearly 500 watching live. So hit the like button. I've got to say, and we saw Anna from Wolves Women that's recently retired, played for 30 years from a young girl, record appearance, obviously best wishes to her. Really lovely lady with you know, gave a lot of service to Wolves women. But Beth Merrick has also this week announced she's not playing for Wolves next year. Now, Beth Merrick, I think she's mad Wolves fan, stands on the South Bank, you know, really, really good player. I've heard a few rumblings about Wolves women, about players potentially leaving and the squad, you know, and we've seen the likes of Newcastle United went fully professional. We've seen the likes of Nottingham Forest in the same division as Wolves go fully professional. We've seen, obviously, Wolves have said about being a Red Bull type club, about the brand, about, you know, investing in esports, paying people to play esports, investing in music, investing in fashion. For the life of me, I cannot understand why they're not investing more than, obviously it is better than it was, because they get the user content, they get the medical facilities, they get all of that. But we're still not paying any of our female players to be able to play for the club. And for me, if the Wolves talk about expanding the brand, the WSL and the women's game is a growing brand. Surely investing into the players and paying them their salary so they can focus on the football and not lose the likes of Beth Merrick because she can't balance work life, whatever it is that she's got to do, and players like that. I'd really love to see Wolves invest in actually going professional in the women's game as well, and taking them to the next level. And I just, for the life of me, feel like we're going to get left behind if they don't do that. Jack, what's your take on that? And has that subject at all been brought up in the fans advisory board? Because I think it's an important subject.
Yeah, no, we had a discussion about it, and the kind of the feeling was that obviously to take the women's team professional, there'd need to be a kind of a big return on investment, really. And at the minute, they don't feel that they're in a position to do that. Perhaps that's something that could happen in a year or two's time, perhaps, or somewhere down the line. I think what you said is a really valid point. You end up getting left behind, because I think other clubs have taken that leap now, haven't they? And kind of gone, well, we'll go professional and we'll start, you know, paying our players, and we'll start playing our games at the first team's men's stadium, if you like, and get the crowds in and this, that, and the other. So yeah, I mean, I think it's I think women's football is the fastest growing participation sport in the UK at the minute. It was the last time I kind of saw any data on that. So I think they are missing a trick a little bit. I like the idea of them sort of being encompassed into the academy. I think that's quite good, like you said, using Compton and the medical facilities. But it's one of those where, from a footballing point of view, which is obviously what we're focused on, it absolutely makes sense to invest in the women's team. But Wolves probably look at it a little bit more from a business point of view and think, is it something that we're in a position to be able to do right now? Maybe, maybe not. And that's probably why they've not pushed the button, if you like, and gone forward with it. But it's certainly something that I think, from purely as a football fan, I'd like to see more investment in that side of the game. Yeah, absolutely.
Josh, what's your take on it?
I say Ashley's alluded it. I think there is, it's, with Wolves, it's coming to a point, isn't it? I think, from what people are saying, where they're starting to lose a few players now, and it's going to be one of those where, well, the players want to take the next step. Are the club willing to now take the next step and push it on forward? It is going to reach a conundrum at some point, where I think, like, players like Beth Merrick, from what I've seen, she's one of the better players that they've got, and the fact she's having to walk away from it is, it's a big loss, I think, for players like that. And it's going to reach a point, I think, over the next year, that they're going to get a few more that will walk away because they're not being given clear instruction on what's going to happen going forward.
To me, it's like, if you build it and you invest, you make things happen. They've invested in esports. I know esports is massive. They've been invested in music. They've invested in the kit. You know, investing in the women's game and going fully professional can only be good. Wolves women should be up there alongside the Newcastles and all the Villas and stuff like that. We should be, because, like, we're Wolves, we're a Premier League team. We should have a equivalent being in at least the Championship or the WSL or get into that. And we've come close a few times. I mean, they've gone up from the 4th tier to the 3rd tier. And then you've seen Newcastle just come in and literally go fully professional. They've wedged through the team. Burnley are semi-professional. Forest have gone fully professional. They're competing in the same league against teams that are going. Forest aren't as big as Wolves, and they're invested in the women's team. And like, I'll just, I've been to a few of the games, and there's a decent crowd. I remember us playing Newcastle. I saw us playing Newcastle, fully professional team. We were beating Newcastle, who I think they only drew one game. We were beating them. Fitness, the last 20 minutes did them. We played Brighton and Hove Albion in the FA Cup. And they were head-to-head with Brighton, a WSL team, for 80 to 85 minutes. And then the last sort of 10 minutes, they scored 3 goals, scored a goal. And it was just fitness, because they train all the time, and you're asking them to compete. And I just think they've raised 3 million through the season tickets. They've got the money to do it. Okay, they're spending on the stadium now. It's 600 to 800,000 on, putting right what should have been put right. But like, I just really, really would wish they would. I know we're all about the men's team and stuff like that, and we talk a lot about that. But you've got to give credit to the women, and it's only good.
Last few years they've done really well.
They have, and it's been that some of the girls in their own rights have got a profile and better.
And I think as well, Dave, you kind of touched on it a little bit there in terms of going to the games. I think we were talking the other day about the fact that there's just not a lot of tickets now for Wolves men's games because of the amount of season ticket holders. There's a really great chance to take your family and take your kids to go and watch some live football. I always say this to the kids that I teach and stuff. Don't grow up thinking football's a TV show, because it's not. You need to go and actually watch games in person to feel what it's like and understand the game. And there's a great opportunity for the families in Wolverhampton and the local area to go and watch live football. Okay, it's out in Telford at the minute, isn't it? Which isn't great for travelling and things. So if they could get more games at Molineux or wherever, great. But there's a real opportunity there to kind of get those kids in, because they can't get into Molineux to watch the Premier League at the minute. But there's perhaps you're in, and then from there they perhaps become members or whatever, and then I think there's a real opportunity there. Like you say, I think they've just, as a club, I think they've just got to be brave enough to kind of go, if we lose money on the first couple of years of it, okay, because long term we might make it back in 3, 4, 5 years time. So it's definitely something that I think they'll get left behind very, very quickly.
Well, they will. And Ashley said, is there something you can do? Well, up until last year, you could get in on your season ticket. I've been to a few. I always try and get to about 3 or 4 games, and it's entertaining in its own right. There's some great goals, some great matches, and it's not obviously at the same level as standard, obviously, because it's women's football. But as an entertainment spectacle, and there's a good atmosphere, it's been great, and people have enjoyed it, and the families are welcome. You see, they mix in as well. They're Newcastle fans and Brighton fans sitting with Wolves fans. It's been good. I just feel like they're missing an opportunity, and Jeff's got 2 young daughters as well. Just spend the money and just spend £1 million or whatever it is, and pay the girls, and
Tiny bit of injection.
Exactly, it's nothing. They've made 300,000 off 3 million pounds off the season tickets. Put a bit of money back into that, and it'll grow. And if you don't invest, ultimately, as we've talked about with the squad, and we've talked about many teams, you stop investing in the Premier League, you go backwards. We've seen that happen. If you don't invest in the stadium, it starts falling apart, and then you're having to spend what could have been a lot less had they kept it up. And they're having to spend nearly £1 million to get the stadium looking decent, because the fans have cried out for it. They've had to listen and finally do something about it. But if you keep on top of it, it doesn't cost that much. So anyway, I know we've gone on about that. It's just that with Beth Merrick saying she's not doing it, she's a great girl, and we do wish her well. It's just a shame that someone like Beth isn't in a position to be able to continue playing for Wolves at the level that she wants to. So anyway, that's her thoughts Yeah, so guys, listen, we've done an hour and a half, a bit longer than what we were planning to, but it's been great having Josh and Jack on. I hope you've enjoyed it in the chat. As I say, a big thank you, as always, of course, to Creation Wolf, who do support us so much on our live shows. Jack, final thoughts? 20 days or so to Arsenal away at start of the Premier League season. Final thoughts ahead of that? You probably won't see Jack now until extra time because we get different people on each week over the next couple of weeks. It's a bit more intimate on the ball, and same for Josh. Jack, final thoughts till we see you once the season starts?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the season. I think we've corrected a few mistakes from last year. Signings are in place, which is good. Obviously, from what you're saying, the performance yesterday is encouraging. Important not to get carried away because last year we got very excited watching us beat, forgive me, the French team in the friendly. I can't remember who it was. We played them off the park, didn't we, at Molineux? And then within 5 days, Lopetegui had packed his suitcase and buggered off. And then you're in a right pickle. But things are looking positive, aren't they? It's been a turbulent summer off the pitch, but on the pitch we seem to be sort of pushing in the right direction. And I think, it's a difficult start, Arsenal and Chelsea, but let's see what we can do.
Absolutely. And Josh, final words from you tonight.
Just to echo what Jack said, really. Pre-season's looking a lot better position than we were this time last year. Don't look at it into too much, see how it goes. Transfer is going to be moving along between now and the end of the window, so don't judge that until it's closed, because I know people do. And just looking forward to getting back down to Molineux.
Absolutely. Guys, it's been absolutely brilliant. Josh, Jack, thanks you very much. If you do want tickets for the Content Creators Cup, the link's in the description below. We will be back next week. We will be back with, obviously, make sure you hit the subscribe button because we've got all the latest Wolves news and content. We'll probably get me doing a little watch along late into the night on Wednesday night again. So join us for that. Keep me company. We've got lots that's going to happen this week. We've got 2 games. And then we're only 2 weeks out. So it won't be long before that first game against Arsenal comes around. And I'm really looking forward to going. I bet you'll be there, won't you, Jack? Josh, you might be there as well.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to I'm ready. At the end of last season, I think we were all burnt out with it, weren't we? We were like, yeah, I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to think, this looks interesting. Let's bring it on. 3 weeks to go. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks to Jack and Josh. Best wishes to you and your family wherever you're watching the world. Until the next one, always Wolves.
Always Wolves.